Okay, after you've watched your two-step equations video where I've explained how to solve two-step equations, if you're still having a little bit of trouble, I'm going to go through and do these questions and you can do them at home with me. Now, the plan is we need to get rid of everything on the side where the x is so that we're just left with x equals a number. Okay, that's the goal. We want to know what is x equal to. Now, if you have a look at this first equation, we've got 2 lots of x, whatever x is, 2 lots of it, plus 5 gives me 13. So basically, I want to know 2 times what number, so what number goes there in the box where x is, 2 times what, plus 5 will give me 13. That's what I'm trying to find out. Okay, what is that mystery number? Okay, so to do that, we need to get rid of this 5, we need to get rid of this 2, and we'll just be left with x equals a number. That's the goal, okay? So how do we get rid of a plus 5? Well, we get rid of a plus 5 by taking it away. So we need to get rid of this plus 5. So let's take 5 off both sides, okay? The opposite of adding 5 is subtracting 5. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. The opposite of adding is subtracting. Okay, so we're going to use our opposites to get rid of this plus 5. Okay, so the opposite of plus 5 is minus 5. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So we're going to minus 5 and minus 5 from both sides. Okay, because it's an equation, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other to keep both sides equal. All right. Okay, so that gets rid of my 5. Now what I'm left with on this left-hand side is just the 2x. So I'm left with 2x is equal to, now on the right I've got 13 take away 5. What's 13 take away 5? It's 8. Okay, so I've taken 5 off both sides. That gets rid of this 5. 13 take away 5 left me with 8. And what I'm left with is just 2x is equal to 8. All right, now I don't want to know what 2x is. Okay, I just want to know what 1x is. So we need to get rid of this 2. So 2 times a number equals 8. Question is, what's that number? So when I multiply it by 2, I get 8. Now you might be able to tell me that that number is going to be 4 because 2 times 4 is 8. All right, but if you're not sure, here's what we do. We do the opposite of timesing by 2 to get rid of this 2. Okay, so what's the opposite of timesing? The opposite of timesing is dividing. So instead of timesing by 2, which we have, we've got x times 2. We're going to divide by 2. If I divide one side by 2, I have to divide the other side by 2 because it's an equation, so I have to keep everything equal on both sides. So whatever I do to one side, I have to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, it doesn't matter what I do, but I have to do the same thing to both sides. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, so they cancel out, and I'm just left with x on this side. I'm just left with x. On the other side, what do I have? Well, I've got 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we get the answer that x is equal to 4. All right. I need you to do your working out the way I've just done it. Write on both sides of your equation what you're doing. Okay. Now, the great thing about this is you can always check that your answer is correct. So we've got x is equal to 4. I can check that that is correct by putting it back up here into this original equation. Now, this original equation was 2 times x plus 5 has to equal 13. Well, if we know that x is equal to 4, what that means is 2 times 4 plus 5 has to equal 13. Now, if that's true, then we know that our answer is correct. Okay, so 2 times 4 is 8 plus 5 equals 13. That is true. So therefore, our answer x equals 4 is correct. All right, and we've solved our first equation. All right, I would like for you to pause the video, have a go at doing the next question by yourself, and then you can watch me do it and check your answer. Okay, the great thing about this video is that you can pause it and stop and rewind as much as you need. So pause the video, do the next question, and then watch me do it, and you can check that you got it right. Okay, B, I've got 4x plus 6 is equal to 50. So 4 times a number, x is just a number, we're trying to find out what the number is. So 4 times something, then I add 6 and I'll get 50. Question is, what's that number? Well, let's start by getting rid of this plus 6. Okay, remember I've got to get rid of all the numbers on this side so that I'm just left with x equals a number. That's the goal. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this plus 6. Now, to get rid of a plus 6, we're going to do the opposite of adding, which is subtracting. So to do all of this, you need to know that plus and minus are a pair. They're opposites. Okay, they'll cancel each other out. What I mean by that is if you add 10 and then you subtract 10, okay, you haven't actually changed the number. Let's say you started with the number 5. 5 plus 10 is 15. Take away 10 gives you back to where you started, which is 5. Okay, so you'll see that adding 10 and taking away 10 actually cancel each other out. Okay, same with dividing and timesing. They're opposites as well. So divide and times, they're opposites. So if I take the number 5 and I times it by 2, I get 10. And then I divide by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. I'm back to the number 5 that I started with. Okay, so you'll see that these two things here actually cancel each other out. All right, so I want to cancel out this plus 6. How do I get rid of a plus 6? Well, I'm going to do the opposite of adding, which is subtracting. So I'm going to take away 6 from this side. If I take 6 off one side, I have to take 6 off the other side. Okay, so let's subtract 6 from both sides. That will get rid of my 6. All right, there's nothing left there because I've taken it away. What's left on the other side is going to be 50 take away 6. 50 take away 6 is 44. So I've got 44 left on this side. All right, and I've still got this 4x over here. So 4x is equal to 44. Okay, so what I have now is 4 times x equals 44. So 4 times a number equals 44. I want to know what is this number that when I times it by 4, I get 44. Now you might know the answer. You might know what number times by 4 gives me 44, and that's great. Okay, but the way to figure out if you're not sure is we do the opposite. So this is currently 4 times the x. I want to do the opposite of timesing by 4. What's the opposite of timesing by 4? It's dividing by 4. So we're going to divide by 4 to get rid of this 4. We're going to divide this side by 4 because if we divide one side by 4, we have to divide the other side by 4. And I'm left with, on the left, just x equals 44 divided by 4 gives me 11. So x is equal to 11. Now again, we can check our answer by putting that back up into our equation and checking to see that it all makes sense. So let's have a look at this. All right, we've got 4 times the number. Now the number's 11. So 4 times 11 is 44. Plus 6 is 50. That is correct. So we know we've got our answer right. Okay, again, pause the video, have a go at doing the next one, and then you can check my answer if you need. All right, C, we've got 10x plus 12 equals 42. All right, the first thing we're going to get rid of is this plus 12 sitting all the way over here by itself. How are we going to get rid of a plus 12? We're going to do the opposite. Remember that opposite of plus is minus. So we are going to subtract 12 to get rid of this 12. If I take 12 off one side, I have to take 12 off the other side to keep my equation equal on both sides. Okay? All right, so that leaves me on this side with just 10x. So I've got 10x equals 42, take away 12 is 30. So I've got 10x equals 30. So now we're here where 10 times a number equals 30. You need to tell me what is this number that when I times it by 10, I get 30. So opposite of timesing by 10, I want you to divide by 10. If I divide one side by 10, we divide the other side by 10 because we do the same thing to both sides. So that leaves me with x equals 30 divided by 10 is 3. So x is equal to 3. And again, you can test that answer by coming back up here to your original equation. 10 times a number, we said the number is 3. So 10 times 3 is 30 plus 12 equals 42, which is correct. Okay, so that means that we got our answer right. All right, again, pause, do your next question, and then you can check with me or listen to my explanation if you need some help. Okay, we've got 5x plus 7 equals 67. we need to get rid of the number 5 and we need to get rid of the number 7. Okay, let's take 7 off both sides because the opposite of plussing 7 is minusing 7. So to get rid of this 7, I'm going to take it away. Now the reason I take it away, you think about this, 7, take away 7, leaves me with nothing. Okay, so essentially this has disappeared now. Alright, so I'm going to subtract 7 from one side and I'm going to subtract 7 from the other side because whatever we do to one side we have to do to the other because it's an equation and we have to keep both sides equal. Alright, that leaves me with this 5x. So I've got 5x equals, what's on the other side? 67 take away 7, I've got 60 left on this side. So 5x is equal to 60. Okay, this is currently 5 times x. What is the opposite of timesing by 5? It's dividing by 5. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5 to get rid of this 5. Divide the other side by 5 because I do the same thing to both sides. And that leaves me with x equals 60 divided by 5 is 12. Right? So x equals 12. Alright, again, let's check that this is correct. Bring it back up here into the equation. You've got 5 times a number plus 7 has to equal 67. Our number is 12. So 5 times 12 is 60. 60 plus 7 gives me 67. Correct. Alright, E. We need to get rid of this 25 and we need to get rid of this 20. Now the reason we get rid of this number on the end is because at the moment it's the easiest one to get rid of. Okay? It's sitting out here all by itself, so it's like the weakest link. It's the easiest one to pick on. Alright, how do I get rid of a plus 20? What's the opposite of adding 20? The opposite of adding 20 is minusing 20. So we're going to take 20 off both sides to get rid of this 20. So let's minus 20 and minus 20. Alright, 20 take away 20 is nothing. There's nothing left there. I'm just left on this side with my 25x. So 25x equals 120 take away 20. Well, that leaves me with 100. Alright, so now I've got 25 times a number. So 25 times x is equal to 100. What's the opposite of timesing by 25? Because that's what we're currently doing. We've got x times 25. What's the opposite of timesing by 25? The opposite of times is divide. So we're going to divide by 25 and divide by 25. Now that will get rid of my 25 so that I'm just left on this side with x equals 100 divided by 25 leaves me with x equals 4. And there's my answer. Okay. All right, I'm going to do one more question for you. F. This time we've got a minus 5. Now, the opposite of minusing is adding. So to get rid of this minus 5, we're going to add 5 to both sides. So we're going to add 5 and add 5, and that gets rid of my 5. Now I'm left on the left here with 2x equals 15 plus 5 is 20. Okay, we've got 2 times x. Now, what's the opposite of timesing by 2? The opposite of times is divide. Okay, so the opposite of timesing by 2 is dividing by 2. Let's divide both sides by 2. So, divide by 2 and divide by 2. Now that leaves me with x on the left, and on the right I've got 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay, so x equals 10. Alright, have a go at doing the rest of these questions. They're all exactly the same. I want you to do your working out like I have. Write on each side of the equation what you're doing to both sides. Okay, and cross off your numbers as you get rid of them and until you're just left with x is equal to a single number.